When you watch the mainstream media news, do you feel a little twitch? Is there a tingle in your left hand? Is your jaw locked? We have the solution. Welcome to Reasonable Arguments, the podcast where thoughtful debate meets unfiltered fun. Coming to you from Sarasota, Florida, where your hosts, Jamie Miller and Jennifer Bash, make sense of the chaos. Together, we mix informed conservative commentary, playful banter, and just the right amount of nonsense to keep it entertaining. This is Reasonable Arguments, and now your hosts, husband and wife duo, Jamie and Jennifer.
Hi.
Hey, babe.
Welcome back. We missed our Sunday show due to technical difficulties, which we're still having today, but we're making it work.
We're going to make it through.
Hopefully. We'll see what it sounds like after we're done recording. But all right, so let's jump into it.
Technically, we did record a session Sunday.
We did, yeah. It just sounded like crap. All right, so let's jump into it. I really wanted to talk about the Trump-Musk interview today because I think I may owe Elon an apology. That's one of the things where I'm going to say that I let the media influence me and everything else influence me on him, because watching him on that interview and listening to him, I truly don't think that he is the next Batman villain. Like, I truly think that he is a genuine person.
I have 3 surprise questions for you throughout this podcast.
And I
you've
just
already
ruined
one of them. No, you just ruined one of them. So great. We'll let everybody decide with the next 2 if they're a surprise or not, or if you just ruined the whole thing.
I might have. All right. So one of the first things they talked about was Twitter, and it was funny because Trump came out saying that he sued Twitter for 10 million and actually wanted more money, but settled on 10 million. And Musk just basically said, I don't know. I let the lawyers and the people who are in charge of that do what they need to do and make the best decisions. So obviously there's no hard feelings.
He's like, Elon Musk is like, I made 10 millions during this question. So
exactly.
What's 10 million among friends?
Exactly. It was just kind of funny but I mean, it did start before Musk owned it. So I guess they can't really go there. One of the next things they talked about was the friendship, and not necessarily so much the relationship, which I think we'll talk about later, but the friendship. And, I think Musk and Trump have a really similar lifestyle, right? They are unfairly attacked all the time. I did it all the time that he's known him. He said he's never seen him say or do or mean anything cruel or do anything wrong. And, I think that that's a huge perception, because that's probably the same thing for.
I mean, one of my takeaways certainly was, the 3 of them. Sean Hannity seems to have a great relationship, at least with the president.
30 years, he said,
and
right?
Kind of a friendly relationship. And so it seemed like a very casual interview. And in that, because it was so casual, you really kind of felt this camaraderie between Trump and Musk, in my opinion.
For sure.
Like, it was just, and I guess that kind of took me by surprise, that it was, it seemed very genuine, very natural for them, because they kind of interrupted each other naturally. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them seemed to get upset when they got interrupted, and it just seemed like this natural conversation.
It was very comfortable, and I think I said the word to you is that it seems like Elon brings out a calmness in Trump. Mm-hmm. That he didn't feel the need to overspeak, and he didn't feel the need to be the one speaking. He was fine with letting Elon do what he does, because it seems like there's a huge level of trust.
So Mike, one question I have for you is, since we're getting to it, is what was your opinion of Sean Hannity's performance or questions or interview?
I honestly didn't really care for it. I don't really think
knowing that Sean Hannity listens to our podcast and reads our Substack.
I do. I think that, I think that, and no offense, but I think that he interrupted a little bit too much. I think that it would have been nice to, and I don't know how much of a public speaker Elon is, and it seemed like he had a little bit of issues, just getting things out that he wanted to get out. But I think it would have been really good to hear Elon talk a little more. But I mean, you're right. The interview itself, because Sean Hannity has known Trump for such a long time, it was definitely a more comfortable conversation for sure.
Yeah, I like Sean Hannity. I've met him on a couple of occasions. I have him on the wall somewhere here behind me in a picture, and have a lot of respect for him. I felt like he phoned this one in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I felt like he could have gone a level deeper without offending either Elon Musk or Donald Trump, and had a little bit more of an in-depth interview. It seemed like every time they wanted to go deeper, he brought it back to the surface, talking about DEI or LGBTQ, and just talking about those like just basic talking points that everyone's talking about. Sean Hannity's a seasoned, respected, in my opinion, I respect him, journalist. And, so I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Barbara Walters or even Howard Stern out of him. Just, ask a question that's off the wall.
It's probably hard because if you've never interviewed Elon, you're really not sure how it's going to go. And especially with Trump, I mean, they're both huge personalities. So, once they got into it, you would think that it would be a
I will
little
say
different.
After watching that interview, and I said at the time that when Elon Musk was at the inauguration and everybody was talking about he did the Heil Hitler salute, that I felt like he was just being a nerd being a nerd, and trying to embrace and thank the crowd. Yeah. And after watching that interview, I'm more convinced that that's the case and not less, because he just comes across as a quirky nerd.
There's absolutely no doubt that the man is on the spectrum. There's no doubt that he is. And that's definitely one of the things that I've taken from that. So one of the next things was the assassination attempt. So Musk had said that he was planning on going along with Trump, but the first assassination attempt was what solidified it for him. He jumped on board quicker than he was.
I think he said he endorsed Trump the day of the assassination attempt. Is that?
Yeah. And he did. And he said that he was planning on doing it, but the assassination attempt sped it along for sure.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess that speaks volumes.
You and I had an incredible day that day in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention, the pre-convention events. And, we did so much press that we don't even know where it all is. We did Japanese TV and radio and probably 8 different press events. And we didn't even collect the cards fast enough to even, kind of say, oh, by the way, here we've done all this international press. And so it was just a historic day and just a lucky day for America.
Yeah. They talked about, this is when Sean Hannity started asking Musk about himself. He said that he really didn't know too much about him and did a lot of research. And, so they talked about PayPal, which I think is hilarious because everybody's, saying, oh, they're going to have all of our information. If you're part of PayPal, they have your information. And whether people or not know that Elon is PayPal or was PayPal, it's just kind of comical. But
at this point, everybody who has a credit card or any type, you and I have
worked with any app on your phone.
You and I have worked with enough data, with data firms enough with some of the clients we work with that, that they have 300, 400 data points, right? And so data exists and it's for sale. So if you have a credit card, you have an app. If you have your Facebook app open anywhere, you can be tracked by that Facebook app.
Well, look at how many people have the wallets in their phone.
Sure, all of it. It's a ridiculous criticism that he, number one, wants your data. Number two, he would do anything with it. And number three, if he actually wanted it, he has it already. He doesn't need to infiltrate the government to get it.
The guy gave a dare to Wikipedia for $1 billion to change their name. I don't think that he needs any of our information.
That's right.
But one of the things they did talk about, which I learned about, was he has a company called Neuralink, which is an implantable device that they are putting into the brains of quadriplegics, which is allowing them to basically use their brain to work their phone, their computer, and everything like that. And he said that they've already implanted it into 3 people, and they are then looking to implant to use capabilities.
And the thing that struck me is that in these 3 people, it's already faster than using your human hands.
Yeah.
Already faster to use Neuralink than to use your hands, which makes a lot of sense because the brain moves or for me, my brain moves a lot faster than, despite what you say, my mouth or hands or whatever. So
depends on the day. Depends on the task. And he also said,
thanks for your faith, baby.
Absolutely. But he said, yeah, you can control your computer and your phone just by thinking. And it's possible to actually control the computer and phone faster than what you said than someone who works with their hands. It'll be funny to see if this is going to be like a cosmetic updo someday where we can just get these things implanted into our brains to work better.
As somebody who had a best friend here in Sarasota who's a paraplegic, and he says that, they will be able to implant it before and after your spinal cord injury to give you bodily functions and potentially walk. Was, of course, my friend Paul is deceased, but it's an incredible, Paul always said he would never see the day, but he knew it would come. And it's sad that he's not here for this day.
Yeah. It was at that point that Musk stood up and opened up his jacket to show his tech support shirt, which I thought was hilarious because he is truly just a geek, right?
And the part that I liked about that is Trump laughed like somebody on the playground. It was just like, oh yeah, that's just the best thing ever. It was little moments like that where you just really felt like that camaraderie was real. That's a perfect example of it.
Yeah. Well, and that I think Sean Hannity said that. It's kind of like I'm sitting here interviewing brothers.
Yeah.
And, that is kind of really what it was. The next one, and this one really surprised me, and I think it also surprised Trump once he started talking about it, is the executive orders. So it seemed like that Trump, he said it, that he was under the impression that once he signed the executive orders, that someone was coming and taking them and starting to implement them right away, which is absolutely not the case.
Well, we all assume that. We all assume the president signed an executive order. Of course, government bureaucrats, who is their job to carry out the will of the president, for whom they work, would carry out an executive order.
Right.
And what did we find out?
We found out that is not the case. And that is one of the reasons why Elon jumped into it, because he knew that it needed to get done. And he actually quoted, he said, when you sign these executive orders, a lot of them don't get done, and maybe the most important ones. And he would take that executive order, that Trump is saying this, he would take that executive order that I signed, and he would have those people go to whatever agency it was. And he would be like, when are you doing it? Get it done and get it done. And, and that's exactly what needs to happen. You need to have somebody on your that has your back like that. Elon's not getting paid. He's not getting paid. He's putting his life on hold to do this job to help the American people.
And you would assume that the department secretary would do that. But as we know, we just had one or two department secretaries confirmed today. Kash Patel over at the FBI has yet to be confirmed.
Yep.
Pam Bondi was just late last week. So, you would think that that's where that executive order would then get waved in front of employees, and it's my way or the highway. Yeah. But here we are 4 weeks into the administration, and yet, a lot of these agencies don't have their Trump leadership yet. They're still being led by Biden leadership.
Well, and here's my conspiracy theory mind. Are they not putting Kash Patel into this position because once the FBI gets up and running and all of this stuff that's being uncovered, is there going to be retribution to that?
Well, there's one person's retribution is another person's justice. If these folks are government employees not implementing the legal will of the president of the United States, which is, nobody's suggesting the president's asking anybody to do anything illegal. They might throw whatever at the wall saying it's unprecedented, it's whatever. No one's saying it's illegal.
Right.
And so and of course the president has the ability to audit and manage executive agencies, right? So it's ridiculous, including a court ruled, I think just today or yesterday, that is in fact the case, that the president has that ability. So it's just, Democrats are backing themselves into a corner. And I always say, I give candidates this advice all the time. It's like, be careful of being a press release candidate or a press release congressman, because you can live and die by that press release, because right now, these Democrat members of Congress, both in the House and Senate, are trying to throw anything to slow Trump down. But every time they say something, every time they put out a press release, they are backing themselves into indefensible positions, that they are going to have to go before the public and prove that they're for the public. And I think what you may see in 2026 is a lot of these Democrats get primaries, because I think there are people in the Democratic Party who are sick of this crap in the Democratic Party as well.
Yeah. I would agree. The next thing they talk about, they do go into Doge and a lot of the things that the specific things that they are finding, the crazy spending on, and, the high end hotels for the immigrants or the illegals, and, the Sesame Street, and, just all of these things. And, it's still amazing to me that I see on social media, because I love to do that, these people still justifying, or not really justifying. I guess they're not really the ones that I've seen aren't justifying now, but they're still blaming Trump. Trump is still the bad guy, regardless of all of these things that are coming out. And I just don't know how, as a human being, that you do that.
Well, and it's kind of like what Trump said during the interview. It's like inflation is still hanging around and people are trying to blame me. He's like, I've been on the job.
That was one of my bullet points. So thank you for taking that away from me.
Oh, you took one from me. I took one from you. So there you go. Now we're even. Sorry about that. I must not have read all the way to the bottom. Yeah. So I'm trying to go through it. You're just that good.
Yes.
You've gotten that good in political. I will tell you that, one of my very political friends is like, Jennifer says she's not political, but she's pretty political. And I'm like, yeah, she's getting there. She's getting there.
Anyway, so now we're going to move on to Sean Hannity joked around and said that, the public and the media and everything is trying to make Elon and Trump get divorced. They're trying to pit each one of them against the other, and really just trying to pull them apart, saying, when's President Musk going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, they just laughed about it. And, I think that was one of the areas, too, where they like, look, this is nothing new to us, right? We have been through this craziness of the media and rumors and garbage.
You're talking about
all
people,
of our lives, right?
You're talking about people in their private life who have to have major security. And, so probably daily, if not weekly, or at least monthly death threat types of things, So these folks have dealt with all of this. And so you don't get to an Elon Musk or Donald Trump. You certainly don't get to, I don't know many CEOs the level of Elon Musk, but I have hung around with a few people who are presidential material, and you don't get there without having thick skin.
Yeah.
And certainly Donald Trump has it. And he's just like, hey, listen, I'm just going to keep plowing ahead.
Wow. I just hope that Elon is not the next target. I feel like we could be best friends now. So then we already talked about the relationship, but again, I'll just say that, watching Trump during that interview, it really just, he just seemed to have a comfortability and a calmness about him. Like, yeah, you know what? We're a team and we're just here talking. So that was really kind of nice to see.
That is the way that interview came across. Like, if you didn't watch it, it just came across as almost three buddies. There was a moderator, but It was like three buddies talking.
Yeah. The next thing they talked about was North Carolina. So Trump brought up that, North Carolina was in so much trouble. They didn't have anything, and they reached out to him to see if they could get Starlink. And Trump said he had no idea what Starlink was, but knew that it came from Elon. And this was before he and Elon had the relationship. And he reached out to Elon and said, people are asking for the Starlink in North Carolina because they didn't have any means of communication at all. And he said, yeah, Elon had it to them immediately, and, probably saved a bunch of lives because of that. And, that again, I think just speaks volumes of him, because, there he is. I thought that he was taking over the country and the world and whatever. And here he is, just really reaching out to help people.
And Elon's response, and I'm not going to quote it directly because I'm not going to remember it exactly, but came across as just truly and honestly compassionate.
Yeah.
And he said something like, of course I'm going to help my fellow Americans.
Like, why wouldn't I?
I mean, he didn't, like, it was just like a no brainer. Like, like these, And Donald Trump talked about how,
Nope, don't go into it.
Donald Trump talked about how there were places that had dry land that were near rivers.
I thought you were going to take another one of my bullet points away.
I'm going to if you do that again. So,
tread lightly.
Yeah, exactly. You too. Ditto. And so he talked about, we're talking about a place where, and we went there. We were at Chimney Rock. We were at Lake Lure, and prior to the devastation, and saw the videos afterwards, and we were devastated. We didn't even go and look at it. We just saw videos of it, and it was a place we vacationed and loved and had the best onion rings you've ever had.
Best onion rings in the world.
And so in Chimney Rock, North Carolina. And so we, so we felt that personally. And so, of course, we have a sister who lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Lots of her friends, family, and fellow employees majorly impacted by these storms. And Robin couldn't get back to her house. It was okay, but she couldn't even get back to her house for 3 weeks because it just the roads weren't there to drive to her house. And she was at Eastern North Carolina when it hit. So, so for him, it was just kind of an interesting thing where it's like, this was devastation. And this guy just like, well, the one thing we can do is try to save lives through communication.
Yes.
And they did save lives. And I'm sure that I don't know for a fact how many, but that communication saved lives.
Absolutely.
And so helping people get rescued. So thank you, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, for that.
Yes, for sure. The next thing they talked about was the rocket ships. So I guess during their courting phase, when they were getting to know each other, Trump went with Elon to see the rockets. And Trump said something that he saw that had a really huge effect on him, and just, I guess, the amount of knowledge and smarts that Musk has is when the rocket was coming back down, and I will quote, "It got grabbed like you would grab a beautiful little baby."
Yeah, that was sweet.
So I guess there's a mechanism that grabs the rocket when it comes down and puts it back where it needs to go. So it was kind of neat to hear that that's something that Trump had never really known about and was really had an effect on him, as he said. So.
Yeah, and as Elon Musk said, he hopes to die on Mars.
Next bullet point. So
I put that up. I laid that up for you. I laid that up for you.
Yes. So the next thing was the Musk in space. And I guess he said people have always asked him, does he want to die on Mars? And he says, well, yeah, but not on impact. So, he is working he is the first private company that had people go into space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not him yet, but he definitely wants to do that. But then that brought up the conversation about the astronauts that have been stuck in space, who were supposed to be there for 8 days, and they've been there for 300 days. And they said that, the Biden administration just did not want to get them. So Elon, with the request of Trump, has been working on that. And he is thinking within 4 weeks, they will have the go ahead to get up there and try to get these people back.
And both in Trump and Musk, this is one of the points. This would be a perfect example of where I think Sean Hannity could have gotten a little bit deeper, because both men said something along the lines of, they're still up there because it's political.
Mm-hmm.
And then Donald Trump went on like, oh, do you have approval to go up and get them now? And he's like, yeah, now that you've signed approval for me to go get them, we're being very cautious. We're going to go through the proper safety protocols, and we hope to launch in 4 weeks. But they both mentioned that they were there because, and they got stuck there because of politics. And so I thought it would have been a good question, a pretty easy question for Sean Hannity to say, hey, you both say this is about politics. I would have liked to have heard the answer of what either one of them had to say of exactly how they felt it was political.
Well, they did say that Biden would never push it through, just like how Trump was able to just push it through, Biden would never do it.
Well, and they alluded to the fact, that Biden didn't want the negative press around the election.
Right.
And so if something went wrong, so just leave them up there through the election. Now they're up there, and so now it's Trump's problem. So they just walked away from it. I don't know if
they have like an Aramark or that company that comes and fills up vending machines. Like, how are these people eating? Like, you can't tell me that they think they're going up for 8 days and I have enough food for a year. That's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of food up on the space station. I don't know how much. It's not infinite, but you can freeze dry a lot of food, and they create water. And
where are these people's family? I'd be losing my mind.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a tough row. So
The next thing they talked about was the Trump derangement syndrome. And Musk was telling a story about when he went to a dinner party with friends about a month or two before the election. And he just mentioned Trump's name. And he said it was like his friends were shot with a dart in the jugular that contained methamphetamine and rabies. He said people were just like losing their minds. And he said he never really realized, how bad it was with Trump. And then I guess once he gave his endorsement to Trump, he then also went to a Democratic party that he was invited to and was not.
It was one of those moments where you saw like Elon Musk just, he's socially awkward, right? Or you can guess, and it's just like, oh, I endorsed the Republican for president, and I'm going to go to this Democrat fundraiser, and I'm not sure why everybody hates me. Right?
Exactly.
And he's just like, I didn't get it, and this is another moment, where Sean Hannity's like, yeah, you should try to go to a restaurant in New York and be me, and because half the restaurants wants to throw stuff at me. Right.
Yeah. So, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So Trump had said that he wanted a great team and he really didn't know Musk, but now he says that he is an amazing person and very caring, which then I think gets into the next part. Elon came on and said, that everybody is just giving such a hard time about the Doge and all of this, finding all of this money. And, Trump brought up a story about Air Force One and buying Air Force One and how they originally wanted like $5 million or billion, whatever it was. And he got them talked down to $1 million or whatever it was. And, they said that it really is just about competence and caring. And Trump came back and said, that he thinks it's more caring. But then Elon came back and said it's competence, because Trump does have the competence to do that, where, another administration, they're being told they have to pay $5,000 for something and they'll just pay $5,000 instead of, trying to bargain to save the American people money. Musk says that it's what the president mentioned earlier, which is that in order to save taxpayer money, it comes down to two things: competence and caring. And they did say that over and over. It's about caring about the American people and saving them money and having the competence to do it. And I think that spoke volumes to me, just because it's such a simple human thing to do, but yet you're literally running your administration by that.
Well, that's the unfortunate part about where Democrats find themselves today, is that, they've supposedly for generations said, oh, we care. And they would get votes because they supposedly care the most. And they've turned their backs on this caring. And they've turned their backs on, they're caring for taking extreme liberal ideas internationally over helping people in our own country who need it. And right. I think more and more people are seeing that. And certainly Doge is, or the Doge, as you like to call it, is
the Doge.
That's what you said.
I say Doge.
You said the Doge. Let's go listen to the tape. I was just...
Your brain skipping.
Nope. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, go back 90 seconds and you'll hear it. And so everybody's shaking their head if they're listening to this. They're like, oh, Jamie's right. Well, you're right. You win. Oh, okay. That's me. I'm saying it to myself.
Let's move on.
This is where you go with the clapping.
I'm going to go with booing. It's time to boo.
Womp womp.
Yeah, let's go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Are you done with your point?
Evidently.
No, you forgot.
I got laughed at. So I'm done.
All right. The next thing they talked about was kickbacks. So Musk was saying this stuff is round tipping. To the president's point, they'll make it sound like it's going to help some people in foreign country, but then they get kickbacks. So I
like where your head's at, baby, but it's round tripping. Round tripping.
Oh, tripping. I'm sorry. Round tripping. But then that's where it comes down to the government employees becoming rich. And, you have government employees where they're making $60,000 a year, but then all of a sudden end up earning $200,000 a year. So what is it that they're doing? Or then they're worth tens of millions of dollars within a few years. Where did that money come from? And obviously, you have all this money going to these foreign companies and countries and everything like that. Someone's making that decision and someone's getting a kickback for it.
Well, we knew, under Biden, without, a major, war, economic, we had inflation, but not a huge, like Great Recession like George W. had, or bank failures and things like that. And he still continued to add to the deficit and the debt at historic rates.
Yeah.
And, we're a country that normally you kind of get yourself through the crisis and then you slow your spending down.
Yeah.
And we've had now, and I'll include Trump's first term in this, and I think Trump would maybe think it was a mistake to spend so much money that in 2020 deficit spend as much as he did. But certainly, 9/11 with George W., the banking crisis with Obama, then COVID with Trump, and then Biden put it on steroids as well without a major crisis except for inflation. And he just tried to spend his way out of it versus trying to reel it in. And so now we're at this point after 25 years of deficit spending without balancing the budget since 2001 that we have to. We literally have to pull back on this spending.
I don't even understand how that happens. Like, how do you not balance a budget?
Well, you deficit spend.
Country.
You constantly put on the credit card. And so in a future Reasonable Arguments Substack, if you haven't subscribed, please do. But you'll see it by this weekend. I'm going to do an analysis of how much our country's in debt comparatively to many of these countries we support. Like we're going in debt to support other countries not being in debt.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
And so
I might read that one.
Yeah. Thank you, babe. You might read the first paragraph and you'll be like, I'm done.
It depends on your wording. We'll see. We'll see how you do with that.
Yeah, thanks.
So the next one was identified waste. Musk said the overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America will go into bankrupt. And he said, this is a very important thing for people to understand. A country is no different than an individual. So if an individual overspends, an individual can go bankrupt, and so can a country. So I know that he set a big goal of 2 trillion with the hopes of getting at least 1 trillion.
Yeah, they both seemed pretty confident that $1 trillion in cuts
is doable.
I think we have to get to 2 because we're going 2 trillion in debt every year. And so the goal has to be to balance the budget in peacetime.
Right.
It has to be. And so, so over maybe not this year, but certainly at the end of the 4 years, we need to have a goal of at least balancing the budget, if not paying off some of the debt.
Agreed. Then they talked about inflation. And of course, everybody's blaming Trump for the cost of eggs and inflation's not going down. And, he basically said he's been in office a few weeks. I mean, you're not going to see a change that quickly. And, the eggs, people, is because of the bird flu. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump. Like, there's just no eggs.
Well, the birds are dying.
The birds are dying.
Birds.
So let's move on from that and think of something else to fight about because that's not Trump's problem. And then they also brought up, I guess, the news story or social media story that was going around about how the government was buying $400 million worth of cyber trucks. And Elon just came out and said that is fake news. Fake news.
Without a doubt, it's fake news. And the other one that's fake news is people are dying because of Doge. I mean, have you heard this one on Twitter and everywhere else? Like, people are dying because of Doge. Like, all of a sudden, listen, I wrote this in Substack last week, or in the hot takes in my last Substack that came out, I think Monday. When a big corporation or small lays people off, they lay off 18.5% of employees. And sometimes they start with 12, but almost inevitably, and I cite a study in the Substack, they end up at 18.5% employees. Doge isn't close to that. We're not even close to 18.5%.
Yeah.
The Department of Veteran Affairs that has 400,000 employees has laid off 1,000. And almost all of those were either temporary employees or people within their 90-day grace period. And so you're talking about 2% of people. You're not, or 0.2%. And so, Department of Environmental Protection is the department that has laid off the highest percentage of employees, 560 employees and 5%.
Yeah.
Like, it's insanity that these government employees have such a mindset that they have lifetime appointments, and they don't. If you're in corporate America, if things go bad, you could lose your job. Certainly, if you run a business for yourself, if things go bad, you have to try to do something else. You might have to go get regular employment instead of running your business. Your business may close. So there's a level of anxiety that these government employees just don't have. They simply don't have any anxiety about their job. And for me, I don't think it's wrong to have anxiety about your job, because maybe you'll do it a little better.
Does that include marriage?
Which part?
Have an anxiety to do better.
Do you have a lot of anxiety, babe?
I'm teasing.
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure
joke.
how. I don't even know how.
That was a joke. God. Rough crowd.
I'll tell you the other thing that I liked that you didn't bring up, but was Trump's trust in the American people. And, he said, they get it. They get it. I think he said, the people are smart. They get it. And that is a difference between Donald Trump and what we've seen out of the last two certainly the last two Democratic presidential, if not Clinton as well, where they did not trust the American people. And they did not think the American people got it. They thought they knew better. And so they had to make the decisions to force American people to do X, Y, or Z. And Donald Trump's respect for the American people, to me, I think is one of the major differences between what we've seen in Joe Biden in this 4-week change in government between Donald Trump's administration and Joe Biden's.
I would agree with that so much. And, it's just one thing that, and I see it all the time on TikTok. They have these there was, I don't know where Trump was, but he was in some building, and this little boy came up to him in a little MAGA hat, and Trump leans down to the little boy, and he's like, "Oh, you're a really handsome guy," and they took a picture, and that is the one thing with this administration, and I don't even know if we saw it so much in his first term, but they are so transparent, and now social media is letting this stuff get out there, and whether people see it or they believe it or whatever it is, he really truly is a people's person. Like, he really is. And I truly believe that with my heart, that his main goal is just for the best for the people. And now I get that from Elon, that he feels the exact same way. Like, why are they have money. They don't need any more money, but they want people to get what they deserve, and that's what they're trying to do, I think.
I think you're right. I have one more question for you. It's a topic that you did not cover.
What's that?
So when they started talking about schools, and we're going to take the money, we're going to disband the Department of Education, which I've written at length about why and how we should do that. But the one thing that he said was, we're going to take the money and give it to the good school districts, whether it's the entire school district of Iowa or, in Westchester County in New York instead of Manhattan. What are your thoughts about, just the thought of, if you're taking federal money and just going to give it to, quote, good school districts?
Well, I think everybody works a little bit harder when they're incentivized. And I think that if you know that you are going to receive something, I mean, it's like, we have the good teacher, where the news goes out and, gives a check to, one of the good teachers. You're going to do your job a little bit differently. And, if they are in control of this, then it's coming down to them. So if they don't have students doing well and all of these different things, the schools the states are going to be looked at, and they have to be either, something happened to them for not doing well, or something happened to them for doing well.
Yeah,
I think it has to be recognized.
Yeah, I'm a little torn, on it. I'm a believer in the money should follow the child. And, I do not, Jeb Bush started here in Florida by grading schools. And if you had an F school, any child in that F school could take their money and kind of go to a different school. And so I'm torn by making people or kids trapped in schools that are failing simply because they're failing, because it's not the kids' fault that they're failing. It's the administration, it's teachers, it's a whole lot of things, socioeconomic problems in that neighborhood, whatever it may be. And so,
think the incentive,
I think you can incentivize it, but I think it has to be apples to apples. But at the same time, you don't want to make the bad school districts worse. And so there's just a struggle with it, right? Because, but I come back to any child should be able to take the money, any parent should be able to take the money and take their child where it is. Now, I think there should be safeguards, that if you're homeschooling, you don't have a parent who's addicted to drugs, for instance, taking the government money and not teaching their children, right? And so there has to be some safeguards that accredited schools or accredited homeschools or whatever, those safeguards are determined by the smart people who are experts in education. I don't want to consider myself an expert in education, but I do think that that was the one thing policy-wise where Donald Trump said, I was like, that gives me pause, and not that he was wrong, because I think you're right. You incentivize those things that are going well, but if you're starting in an F and you move to a D, that incentive should be very similar than if you're a B and go to an A. Yeah. And so, I just hope that when they decide to do that they do it in a way that has children in mind. Florida has been at the forefront of children having the best possible opportunities in America. And so I hope they do look at the 25 years of what Florida has done as far as school choice and parental choice to have the most successful school system possible.
Well, so that brings up something else. I have my social media thing, but in my hometown, there was a boy, I want to say his name's Aiden, who has started a petition about school lunches, changing I guess it's the Michelle Obama school lunch program.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much waste because the food's just terrible and everything like that. So let me see if I can find it, because I want to give a shout out to him. And I signed it. I mean, why not, right? I'm not eating the food, but if it's that bad that you have a kid coming on here to do it.
Hasn't school food kind of historically been bad?
Probably.
Yeah, we always love pizza day, but I'm not sure I would want to eat it today.
No, I agree. And I'm probably not going to be able to find this quick enough, but, so, and hopefully that's something that, RFK will get in there and change and, make a little bit better.
Well, and interestingly enough, those school lunch programs are not governed by the Department of Education, nor are they governed by the Health and Human Services. Right. They're governed by the Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
So that's how the school lunch program is paid for and provided for. And so just a little interesting caveat for my beautiful bride, who would assume that the healthy school lunch would come from either the Department of Education or Health and Human Services, and it's neither.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. But not surprising.
Right.
Not surprising at all. Oh, here, did I find it? Maybe not. Okay, so my social media story is I saw a post where it says, I guess there's going to be a 24-hour economic blackout on February 28th. And it says it has nothing to do with taking money away from anyone. It has to do with showing the politicians, the billionaires, and the elite that if we decide, we can stop the economy anytime we want. Additionally, it's a test. So many speak about wanting change and taking action. Let's see if everyone can get up and do one simple act. Then we can move forward.
So what's either your point or what position or thought on that?
I'm baffled. I'm truly baffled. What is the point of that?
Yeah, it's number one, it's not going to be successful.
No.
Number two, like just because of simple practical application things. Oh, I forgot to get gas on the 27th. I've got to get to work on the 28th. So I'm going to go buy gas.
Day. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like just little things that are going to, we're at the end of the day, people are trying to say, oh, we want to do something to stop Donald Trump. And the truth of the matter is, Democrats went through a non-democratic process to pick their nominee. And, Donald Trump won the election resoundingly. And it is because Democrats, even prior to Donald Trump taking office, it's getting worse now, took indefensible positions before the American people, and the American people said enough is enough.
Yeah.
And so I think it's cute that they want to do that.
I think it's just sad that and I guess I don't know how I would feel if Trump lost. But I think I guess I just feel bad that people just feel so badly about it. You know what I mean? Then they just can't see a silver lining. And I get that we're only, 3 weeks in, whatever. But, nothing blew up when he was president before. So just relax and just
in fact, the opposite.
Right.
In fact, just the opposite.
Well,
things
a lot
blew
of these
up
people,
after he was no longer president.
Well, but a lot of these people, like you have said before, don't know any better because they were only maybe an adult during the Biden administration. So they don't know any better.
Well, yeah, young people, here's one of the funny things. It's always seen as nostalgic to go protest, right? The protest of the anti-Vietnam War protest of the 60s, it's like great nostalgic moment. And I think if we had Doge back then, we would find that was paid for by the Russian government, and Russian instigators who were trying to divide Americans. And they were successful, so much so that a generation or two later, we are still arguing about these, petty things. And we can't get on board with things like, hey, boys shouldn't be in girls' bathrooms. Like, if we're divided on that, holy mackerel. Like, what?
Right.
That's insanity. And so the fact that we have a major political party in America that is putting a line in the sand saying, no, boys should be in little girls' bathrooms.
Yeah.
That's defensible. And I think it's a horrible, as one of my mentors would say, Chairman Tom Slade from North Florida. Well, that is one piece of political dirt in which I do not want to stand because the sand will shift right beneath your feet.
Wow. Okay, well, with that, we are done. Anything else, Jamie? Please no.
I only have one Tom Slade impression per night.
Good. Do you want to do Joe Gruters?
No, I'll wait on that one.
Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
This has been Reasonable Arguments, News and Nonsense. There is so much BS on the mainstream media news, but you knew that. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. See you next time as husband and wife duo Jamie and Jennifer keep it real on Reasonable Arguments.